G'day guys, how are you? Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. Tonight I'm going to be doing a review of a film that was sent to me, a screener copy of a low-budget American independent horror film, English language, released in the year 2012, directed by Jason M. Koch, and this movie is called Seventh Day. So as I said, this is a screener copy. I was really thankful to get it, and I really didn't know what to expect, which can be a good thing. So the story to Seventh Day, it follows a serial killer. Now this serial killer is very lonely. He works as a dishwasher, and he is falling in love with a girl, a co-worker, and she doesn't really have the same feeling for him, but he feels that he can win her over. So while he's trying to win her over, he is also trying to battle another passion of his, which is murder. So Seventh Day, basically it follows 7 days of this serial killer, and he's murdering his victims, and as each day goes by it gets more and more grotesque and a lot more daring. So on the 7th day it promises for a big payoff, and what happens and whether or not he can win over this girl that he wants to, that's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on 7th Day. As I said, a screener copy, this is a low-budget American independent horror film, and I think that independent horror is really the way to go as far as USA is concerned. So I was umming and ahhing, definitely hit or miss. Sometimes you can get onto some gems, and sometimes you can get onto some complete disasters. Fortunately, this is not a disaster. In fact, this is a very interesting film, and it does separate itself from the cliched serial killer film. Now, the movie does have problems. I think it's not very consistent, but I thought it was unique, so it's definitely worth a purchase and have a look at if you're a fan of the serial killer subgenre. Now, why the movie is so unique is because it humanizes a monster. A lot of films, it has a lot of comfort. The viewer has a lot of comfort in knowing that this serial killer in a typical serial killer movie is just a monster, and that you can basically label him as a psychopath, and that you can't relate to this guy, so therefore you just brush him off on the side, saying that he's a freak of nature, and that because he's got no relatable quality, it feels like he's the type of guy who's out of this world. He's a supernatural sort of element. Hence you've got the Michael Myers, the Jason Voorhees. You can kind of separate yourself from those killers, and it gives you some comfort knowing that it's just a movie. But then you've got movies like Seventh Day, where the director has made a conscious effort to humanize this character, to make relatable qualities that you can connect with. And when you can connect with this guy, you think to yourself, wow, I am kind of like this guy. And he has these relatable qualities that are likable, and you can see yourself in him. But then on the other hand, he's got this monstrous quality that makes you really scared, because this could be your next door neighbor. This is a very real guy. He's not like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. This is not so much out of the realms of possibility. This is very real. This guy, as I said, exists. And he could exist under your nose without even realizing it. And that's the case with all the co-workers of this guy. They're not aware of what this guy does in his spare time, and that's the case with a lot of serial killers. And so many movies kind of just throw them out so far out of left field that it's unrealistic, that you don't get relatable qualities in these characters, and they don't feel human. But this movie, where it succeeds, is making a monster as human. And this guy, you can relate to him, you feel sorry for him, you feel that he is very shy, he wants to connect with the outside world, but he can't. And as a result of his upbringing, he's getting very frustrated. And the only way that this guy can vent his frustration is through, a lot of horrific sort of events. So he's killing, and then on one side you've got a very sweet sort of guy. So it is a character study of a very, very unique individual, a very interesting individual, and as I said, a very real individual. So that is where the film is, that's where it really does get you, and that's why I would say definitely check it out if you're a fan of this subgenre, because it does try very hard to get a humane quality, and I think it does it very well for the majority. Now, as I said earlier, it is a very inconsistent film, and the inconsistencies are in the acting, the script, and the audio, and just the film feels like, yeah, it is a good film, but if it was just a little bit more consistent, it would have been a great film. Now, what I mean by that is that the acting from the serial killer guy was really good. In some parts, I could connect with him. I felt sorry for him. But then in other parts, he starts to feel like he's reading from a script. You can tell that this is acted. And then all of a sudden, it goes back to a really good performance. And so it's chopping and changing, whether, good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. And that's what holds the film down ultimately. Then you've got the audio, which is out of sync in some areas and then back in sync. I don't know if that's something to do with the screener copy, but that kind of holds it back as well. And then you've got the inconsistency in the script. Yeah, you've got this passage of dialogue that is really soul-searching, and it really hits you hard, and it makes you think. And then all of a sudden it goes down a cliche sort of cheesy route. And then it goes back to another soul-searching one. So, as I said, it's that continuous stop-start as far as quality is concerned that really makes you realize that, yeah, this movie is low budget. This movie is, not as polished as a lot of other films out there, but there are glimpses of brilliance, which shows that the directors have a lot of talent and have a very big future in this genre. So it is an extreme film, and I do stress that, extreme, so do not go out there and see this if you're only a part-time horror fan. I think the director has really captured the essence of horror. I thought the low-budget feeling really helped contribute to the very sleazy and dirty feeling that the director wanted. At the end of this film, you're going to have to go and take a shower. I thought the gore was phenomenal. It's more a case of the aftermath as opposed to explicit kills. There are 2 kills that are very graphic and very hard to see. Very hard to watch. But it's more a case of the aftermath, and the aftermath is repulsive, absolutely disgusting, and it will make you feel uncomfortable. It made me feel uncomfortable, and it took me by surprise at just how extreme the film gets. And it shows you that the director is not confined to what's appropriate. He's not making a film to appeal to the masses of all age groups. He's making a film for genuine horror fans that want to test the boundaries of cinema, and I thought that he goes very, very far, and he's not making any apologies for it, and he's basically saying this is what horror is. It's supposed to make you feel very uncomfortable, and as a result, he does it does pay off, and he does achieve that to some, in some aspects. But as I said, there's inconsistencies where it just felt like, yeah, that part wasn't as good as that part, and there are a lot of moments in that where you're actually comparing the 2 parts. But as I said, for a low-budget movie, this is definitely a bright spot, and I'm sure that the directors are going to learn from the errors that they've made in this film, and then they're going to go on to bigger and better things. The narration was very good. It felt like you're in the mind of the serial killer. There's constant narration, and if you've gone through mental problems or you've got anxiety issues, there's constant mental chatter, and it's just going on and on. And the narration does that, and it does it very well. It feels like you're going through this with him. My only problem with the narration is that it kind of goes a little bit too much, in that there are some obvious parts that you, as the viewer, can see, and it kind of feels like the narration is there to tell you what's happening, but you know what's happening. So in some parts it would have been better if the less said the better, and just let the viewer make up their own mind and let it unfold by itself. I thought there were a few scenes that would have been better with silence. But there's just that constant narration, which can be good because of the fact that it is constant mind, chatter. But I just thought there were some areas where it would have been better if it was just no talking at all. But having said that, that wasn't a big criticism. The ending was very good. I thought it left it at a very high level. Each killing is getting worse and worse, and you think to yourself that it's going to completely boil over at the end. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end, but it is a different kind of ending, and I thought it paid respect to the movie, and it capped off what was a very rewarding experience as far as low-budget cinema is concerned. The acting from the supporting cast wasn't great, but as far as low-budget filmmaking is concerned, you're going to see a lot worse out there. I thought, as far as low budget is concerned, the acting was very passable, especially from the lead actor. But as I said, there are just these little parts of the film that are inconsistent, and it does drag the film down a little bit. But having said that, I enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it to anyone out there who is a fan of the more extreme side of horror. And it's definitely the future for horror, as far as I'm concerned, the independent filmmakers. So the Dire Wit films deserve to be congratulated for this effort. I thought that it was a great indication of what's to come in the future, and hopefully I see a lot more of them in the future. So that's all I'm going to give you for this review. Overall, I'm going to give Seventh Day 3 stars, and it's going to come recommended. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.